What would you do if the face you've been searching for your entire life was the one you couldn't remember? What would you say to the mother you believed had abandoned you, only to learn she had spent 43 years searching for the child she lost for just one moment? This is the story of a man who crossed half the world to reclaim a name he didn't know he had, and of a mother who kept a light burning for a son she feared she would never see again. On a warm February morning in the coastal city of Quy Nhon, as Vietnam prepared for the joy and renewal of Lunar New Year, a man stepped out of a car and whispered two words that made a 67-year-old woman collapse into tears. "Hello, Mom." The child carried away by war. In the soft morning light of February 10th, Quy Nhon finally breathed again after days of heavy clouds. The little house on 34 Ton, that jam street, was nothing extraordinary from the outside. Worn walls, an old metal gate, potted plants clinging to the last bits of sunlight. But inside, a 67-year-old woman sat restlessly, her frail hands gripping the arms of her wooden chair. Her name was Lê Thị An, and today, she was waiting for a miracle that had been delayed for 43 long years. Every few minutes, she looked toward the gate, hoping, doubting, praying. The war had stolen many things from her, but none cut deeper than the loss of her 9-month-old son, Nguyen Thanh Chau, swept away in the chaos of 1975. A child too young to fight, too small to understand, yet old enough for a mother to remember for the rest of her life. The story began with tragedy layered upon tragedy. One moment, she was a young mother trying to build a life in wartime Vietnam. The next, an accident shattered everything. Hospitalized for more than 2 months, she fought through pain and fear, waiting each day for her relatives to bring baby Chau so she could nurse him. Then came another blow. Her parents died suddenly, and her husband abandoned her in the same breath. Alone, recovering, grieving, she made the most impossible decision a mother can face, to temporarily place her son in an orphanage until she could stand on her own feet again. But war is a thief with fast hands. When she finally went to retrieve him, the nuns had already taken him from Quy Nhon to Saigon for safety, and by the time she reached Saigon, he was gone. One of 100 children placed on the Mercy Airlift organized by the Daily Mail, given a new life somewhere across the world, a life safe from the war, but far from her arms. That day marked the beginning of 43 years of searching. She traveled from province to province, from temple to orphanage, chasing whispers, asking strangers, hoping for miracles. And every night, she prayed that wherever he was alive. Meanwhile, in Northern Ireland, that lost child was given a new name, Vance McElhinney. Adopted by Cyril and Liz McElhinney, he grew up deeply loved, yet unmistakably different. By age 10, he felt the sharp ache of being the only one, brown-skinned in a sea of pale faces, Vietnamese in a place that had never heard the name Chau. His adoptive family gave him everything, but not even love could fill the hollow question echoing inside him. Who am I, really? All he had from Vietnam was a small photo with a scrawled name, Tan Van Nguyen, which was not his real name. One day, driven by that emptiness, he reached out to the BBC Northern Ireland program, A Place to Call Home. The broadcast aired, and then the messages began. Among them was one from a Vietnamese woman named Hoang, his cousin. She sent pictures of his parents, old family details, pieces of a life he had never known. For the first time, Vance looked at a photograph and thought, "This person looks like me." And in that simple moment, the ache of a lifetime made sense. He was not an orphan. He belonged somewhere, to someone. Back in Vietnam, when Mrs. An heard the BBC interview, she broke down in tears. Not because he doubted her, but because she recognized the pain in his voice, the loneliness she feared he had carried all those years. She began calling him, sending messages, learning technology she had never imagined touching, and slowly, hope returned. Fragile but alive, a hope that her son might come home. The journey back to a name. Half a year later, fate arranged the moment both had imagined but feared for decades. Their first meeting was tender but uncertain, hope mixed with hesitation, longing mixed with caution. 43 years is a long time for wounds to form, and even longer for trust to grow. But this second reunion, this time with the final DNA confirmation, felt different. It felt real. On that February morning when the car stopped in front of the gate, Mrs. Ahn rose from her chair with trembling legs. Each step felt heavier than the last, not from age, but from the weight of everything she had carried: guilt, regret, love, unanswered prayers. And then the car door opened. A man stepped out, grown, strong, his face shaped by decades in another world. Yet there was something unmistakably hers in the way he held his expression, in the quietness of his eyes. He walked toward her. She whispered his name in her heart. He took a breath, and then, in simple English, words she had waited her whole life to hear. "Hello, Mom." Her tears broke instantly. She reached for him, clinging to him as if he might disappear again. Interpreters translated their words, but mothers do not need languages to understand their children. Even if they could not share sentences, they shared something deeper: blood, history, loss, and now, reunion. Inside the house, surrounded by relatives, she brought out treasures she had protected for decades: faded photographs, old memorabilia, scraps of the past she refused to abandon. She showed him a picture of herself holding him as a baby. "I was teasing you to make you laugh," she explained softly. Vance stared at the photo, stunned. His mother had memories of him, memories that proved he had belonged somewhere long before he learned to speak. For years, he imagined that his life before adoption was a blank page. But here, in this little house, he realized it was a chapter written lovingly, tragically, beautifully, just stolen from him too soon. As they talked, as relatives gathered around, as laughter mixed with tears, Vance felt something he had never felt before: recognition. Not biological resemblance, not shared history, but the feeling of being home. In Northern Ireland, he had a family who loved him. But here in Vietnam, he found the missing half of his identity: the people who had waited, searched, prayed. His mother, once too poor to buy him medicine, now proudly told him she had learned English just to speak with him. She had called him hundreds of times. She had waited 43 years for this moment, and now he was home. Not as Vance McElhinney alone, but also as Nguyen Thanh Chau, the name she gave him at birth. The first Tet of a lifetime. As Tet approached, the energy in the family shifted into celebration mode. This wasn't just another holiday. This was history being rewritten. This was blood returning home. Uncle Lê Kim Swoang showed Vance the small room they had lovingly prepared for him. New bedsheets, decorations, framed photos. A room not just for sleeping, but for belonging. Aunt Sao Nu filled the kitchen with the scent of cakes, sweet rice, and dishes she remembered from the days before the war. Neighbors dropped by, curious and emotional, greeting the boy who came home after 43 years. Aunts held his hands, cousins hugged him. Elderly relatives who once feared he was dead now cried openly in front of him. And through it all, his mother stayed close, watching him as if memorizing him all over again. For Vance, everything felt new, yet strangely familiar. The sound of the waves in Quy Nhon, the scent of jasmine in the evening, the taste of Vietnamese tea, the warmth of relatives who insisted he eat every 5 minutes. This would be his first Tet as a Vietnamese man, the first time he celebrated the holiday his blood had always known but his life had forgotten. He prepared offerings, folded his hands in prayer, visited the graves of grandparents he had never met. He placed incense before their tombstones and whispered, "I'm home." As a chef, he couldn't resist joining the family in the kitchen. He wrapped bánh chưng, clumsily at first, laughing at his own mistakes, but his mother beamed with pride as if he had cooked for kings. He practiced wearing an áo dai he had prepared just for this occasion, and when he walked out in it, his mother's eyes sparkled with joy. To him, these were not cultural rituals. They were pieces of a life he had been denied for decades, pieces he was finally reclaiming. On New Year's Eve, the family gathered around the table. Lights glowed, steam rose from the dishes, the air was thick with love. His mother reached for his hand. "My son," she whispered in Vietnamese. He didn't understand the words, but he understood everything. In that moment, 43 years of separation dissolved, replaced by something whole, something healing, something finally complete.